And I started to approach stores. I'd love to like shoot some pictures in the boutique, but not like in the tray, maybe like one of your staff can wear the watch and give them a coffee or something like this. And it was always pictures without heads at that point. And then it was like, oh, what if we took someone outside of the boutique? So then we started to get contacted by brands.
Today we're being joined by Anish Bhatt, the founder of Watch Anish Media. Favorite watch brand and why?
I'll tell you what I really like. I love a lot of brands, I love Rolex, I love Patek. I've collected a lot of brands in my life. If I look at a brand that's really an anomaly, like it doesn't make sense how it's so successful in such a short period of time, is Richard Mille. The design is so iconic, and the fun that they have, right? They launched like a year or a year and a half ago this smiley watch. The watch is like just emojis, and it's a tourbillon, and the retail price is like, I don't know, you can't even get one because it's 50 pieces. The retail price like 1.2 million or something like that, and people are fighting to pay double the retail price to have one. Fighting to pay.
Like I saw a video the other day of Rick Ross.
So I know about this story from a while ago. You can't buy this watch on its own because it's part of a set of 10 pieces made by AP. You can only buy it as a set of 10. Okay, they only have manufactured one set of 10 so far, which belongs to a friend of mine from Italy. So it's impossible for Rick Ross to have that watch because he would have to have the other 9 of that watch. And AP themselves said they've only produced one set. I mean, there's like fake, and then there's like what's called Franken, quite famous case recently, an Omega Speedmaster, $30,000. And what was interesting was that the bridge of the movement had a serial number, and that bridge was changed to a specific serial number to match a certain period in time. Because this dealer had someone that he knew that worked inside Omega that went into the archives of all the watches that they made and gave him a serial number that he could use to engrave onto the back of this watch. And then this watch went to auction and sold for $2 million.
Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the GVE London Podcast. And today we're being joined by Anish Bhatt, the founder of Watch Anish Media. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, thank you.
So for those that don't know, you're literally the OG of the watch journalism game. You started out in like 2010 when Instagram was just starting.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the OG of all of watch journalism because there's a lot of people that have been doing it a lot longer than me and probably much more established, especially at that point. But I think on social media, when I had started on my own, I had started maybe in a different narrative, in a different language to everyone else. And we attracted a completely different type of audience. Back when social media wasn't associated to anything to do with luxury. You know? So social media was kind of Facebook, which was like keeping in touch with your friends from school.
Exactly.
And there was like MySpace and some other platforms. There was Tumblr, which was for blogs. And then Instagram at that point had just started, and it was like pictures of your breakfast or your lunch. Or your dinner.
I remember that time.
So it was nothing to do with anything in the luxury segment.
Were watches like always a passion?
Since a very young age, I'd always been quite fascinated by them from a point of view of something in terms of the utility that it provides. And then as I got older and I learned about the mechanics of it, and I learned especially about the provenance of it, and I learned about the importance of vintage watches and then into like the deep dive into really complicated watches and how they operate and the way that these items sell at auction for so much more money, or how that affects the market. So it was like all these different factors.
So before you started the blogging account, what were you doing before that?
I was working a normal job. I mean, I'd started learning about watches when I was at university.
Okay.
And then I was making money working in the student bar, and then I was DJing. I did that for I was DJing for I don't know, 7 years, 8 years, and then
really that long?
Yeah.
Well, we've got another fellow DJ down here.
There you go. See.
Yeah, uni DJ.
Yeah. See. So I mean, all the money that I was making.
How did that career go for you?
I mean, I enjoy it. I love it. I still do it now. I enjoy it. But back then it was like you'd make money and you'd spend it all on vinyl, because that's what it was back then. There was no MP3. It was not CDJs.
You're an old school vinyl.
Yeah, it was
style
like
DJ.
you make, I don't know, £150 a week, and you go and spend 145 down at HMV or Black Market or in Soho, one of these record shops. So it was cool. It was great. I love music from really young age. So
did you have a DJ name?
Oh God, yeah. But back then, my DJ name was Tonic.
Tonic.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
It was like someone said to me, "Oh yeah, Tonic is like a mixer. It's like a drink. It's a mixer." So okay, so that was the name.
What was yours?
Mine. You know what mine is? You just want me to say. It's something that I won't say.
Come on.
My old school DJ was DJ Gugsy. So there's Nick's. Yeah. What was the turning point of your career as to why you got into watches? Was there something in your life which instigated your interest into watches?
To be honest, like I kind of stopped DJing and I went to try and work a normal 9-to-5 office job, but DJing was kind of paying basically just for the music and a little bit of money to live off, but nothing like exceptional. And I thought, okay, maybe I should get a serious job. So I went to work for some office jobs and it was nothing interesting when it was kind of living a little bit paycheck to paycheck. And then, I found watches really interesting and I started learning more and more about them. And I thought, I'd known about them for a while and I'd saved up whatever little money I could over years to buy what I could afford.
What was it that you found interesting about them though? Because a lot of people do like that whole industry, but very rarely.
It's a mixture of things, I really found it interesting, the provenance of certain things, like how, a really old specific type of Rolex Daytona could have retailed for like $200 or $300 back in the 70s. And it sells at that time in auction for 100,000 or 150,000, and it was like, what makes that so special? Oh, it's the dial. Oh, it's this. It's because of the color configuration, or it's because of the specific type of text or the font that they use. So I used to, back then there was no resource like social media today, or even online like sites that have so much info. So back then I was like buying these reference books from Japan and stuff like that, really obscure, really geeky, I would say, encyclopedic ways of learning about this stuff. But I found it really interesting. I thought, it's really cool, that these small things can make such a difference in the value.
So is it safe to say the driving force behind it was the monetary side of things then?
Not necessarily the monetary side of things, but just the interest of how this small thing can have such an impact on the rarity of something or the collectability of something, right? And then by de facto, complicated watches and how all these different ways of telling the time in a complicated way, and how different brands, and at that point there was like Harry Winston doing like the Opus project, and there were brands like independent brands like MB&F and Richard Mille, and these brands were coming out doing really cool, interesting things. And it was just kind of like something that I had learnt about and become quite proficient in. And then when you're confident in talking about something, you feel like, I can talk to more people about it. So
then you set up, I guess that's when you set up your Insta account, right?
Yeah, I set up a blog at first because at that time...
So the blog came first?
Yeah. I'd set up a blog at first on a platform called Tumblr.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea was to talk about watches in a younger type of language, because all the people that I was discussing watches with were much older than me on like these watch forums, which were very great sources of information, but populated mainly by 50, 60, 70-year-old guys. Because of the price of a lot of the watches, it was difficult for a young person at that time to say, I can afford a collection of 5 or 10, 50 or 100,000 pound watches. So generally the demographic was a lot older. And I kind of wanted younger people like my age at that time to understand and fall in love with watches the way that I had. And I figured it must be a bit through the language and the terminology, because it's difficult. It's like cars, right? It's like if you know a car, you'll refer to it by its model number, or you'll refer to it by its engine, and you'll be like, this one, and blah, 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 it's naturally aspirated, or it's this, or it's a V12, it's a V8, it's this special edition, it's a, I don't know, SVO, or it's a STO, or whatever it is. And people that know cars know what you're talking about. Yeah. But anyone like walking past you would be like, what language are they talking in?
Exactly.
What is this? It's alien. Yeah. And in watches, it's like that. You talk in reference numbers, you'd be like, 5980, 5990, 5711, 6701, 1103, 15202. I don't know. You'd have, so a watch person would understand exactly what that means, but a normal person would be like, is that a phone number? Like, what is that?
Yeah, exactly.
So the idea was to break that barrier a little bit, so people who didn't know about watches could find a way to be interested in it through a language that they could understand.
And then was the blog starting to take off?
Yeah, the blog took off like really quickly. And then I kind of found Instagram just by chance, it was like, oh, this is cool. It's a platform that's very visual based. It's not so much text, but it's very conversational. You know, there's a lot of interaction, people asking questions and then replying. And that is better for me rather than writing like whole long articles about stuff. I thought, oh, this is cool. Okay, let's try this. So I started an Instagram page, mimicking a little bit of what I was doing on the blog. And that took off, you know, pretty quickly as well. Because I think
around that time, around 2011, that's actually when I first met you, 2011, 2012, right. That kind of time. It was... Instagram was just this place where if you stuck a picture of, you know, let's say a Speciale, it just would go mad, right?
Yeah.
And so then it was just who's got the best picture of a car, right? And then that could be enough to start getting you a bit of a following.
Yeah.
And it was just the perfect time to get into it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think people hadn't seen these things before, right? A lot of people hadn't. You know, I lived and grew up in London, so I'd been lucky enough to be in a big city, and you walk around Oxford Street or Mayfair or whatever, and you might see a Lamborghini, or you might see, but a lot of people around the world, they don't. So to see, especially a specific rare car, was quite a rare thing at that time, you know, on social media. And the interaction was completely different, as you know, back then. In terms of like you putting up a picture of something special or a video of something. I mean, back then there wasn't even videos on Instagram; it was just pictures, and the reaction that you get and the engagement that you get on the back of it was huge.
I mean, what was the underlying reason for all of this then? So you started the blog. I mean, was it monetized or was it just to bring awareness to
it was just, to be honest, it was like I was working, like a lot of people in life, you know, you work as a means to an end. You're not working because you love your job. You do it as a means to earn money, to give yourself some financial freedom, to do things that you actually like. And this was something that I liked, so it was a way to pass the time. And then concurrently, as it grew a bit in popularity, I didn't really know how to monetize it, and I was doing it on my own. I ended up having that argument with my boss, and we fell out, and then I left my job. And I thought, okay, let me just try this for, I don't know, 2-3 months while I'm looking for a job in the meantime. And maybe there's something to it, you know, at least if I concentrate on it and I can try and do something. So then I found I thought, okay, let me get a professional photographer. And I found this guy at a fashion college. And I said, look, this is the idea that I have. And I want to shoot watches like in real life environments. Because at that time they were like, in fashion, there was a website called the Sartorialist, which is a really like groundbreaking type of website. Because it was like a fashion website of real people. The guy, his name was Scott Schumann, so he would go to New York and he'd film people just in the street, and he'd go to Paris and film people in the street. So it's very voyeuristic type of content. So you felt like you're there with him. You felt like you're looking at these people in real life. And that was kind of the thing that I wanted to do with watches. So I would go with photographer and we'd go around Mayfair, Knightsbridge, these nice areas, and be like, oh, you know, I could spot a watch from like quite far away because I'd learned about it for so long by that time. So I'd be like, oh, that's a vintage Rolex, or that's a JLC, or that's a Blancpain or something.
And then you'll ask somebody if you can take a picture.
I'd be like, hey, do you mind, you know, I have this blog and I'd love to take a picture.
If you've done that now, you'll get arrested.
Yeah. Now I'd be like, oh my God, where's the mopeds and stuff? But yeah, now you can't do it. But back then it was like, oh, okay, you know.
It's funny you say that back then, but there's this guy now, Swar, you've probably seen him, he's going viral on TikTok, but he just walks up to people wearing watches.
Oh God.
Takes a video of them saying, oh, what do you do for a living? And
yeah.
But this guy has got millions and millions of followers, just of him walking around. I think it's somewhere around Beverly Hills, and he stands outside these shops. This guy himself is a watch jeweler.
Oh no,
Daniel Mack's the guy who does it with cars.
No,
this guy does it with watches.
Watches.
It's a bit weird. It's a little bit awkward, right? Because there'll be someone like standing outside a boutique, or a woman with a bag, and he'll come up to him and be like, oh, I love your Cartier, or I love your whatever it is. And the people are like, sometimes they're a bit taken aback, sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's kind of product placement, you can see, because the person is expecting it, and then he goes on to talk about his business and plug his business and whatever he's doing. And there's a couple of times where he said it to someone, he's like, oh, I really like your Richard Mille, and the Richard Mille's fake.
Oh God.
Because I can see that it is.
So we done it for, you know, I am Bugista for my brother. And so we decided to do the same thing with handbags, but just do it outside the store. And so a lot of the videos went viral, but the one that went most viral was when they stopped this girl and they said, oh, I love your handbag. What do you do for a living? And she goes, my parents are rich. But no, it's crazy. So you went from the blog online to taking these pictures, which were kind of in real life situations.
Yeah.
And then at what point during that Instagram, early phase of your Instagram journey, did it just suddenly turn, massive?
I mean, so there's a finite number of pictures you can take out in the wild, let's say. So then it was like, okay, what can I do next to that? And I started to approach stores and boutiques and be like, hey, this is what I do, and I have this blog, and I have this Instagram page, and I'd love to like shoot some pictures in the boutique, but not like in the tray, maybe like one of your staff can wear the watch and give them a coffee or something like this. And it was always pictures without heads at that point. Someone in a nice suit with a coffee or a chocolate or something like this. And you kind of give it still that real life twist, even though it's within a boutique, right? So it kind of started like that. And then it was like, okay, what if we took someone outside of the boutique with a security person and we went and had a hamburger, or we went and got a pizza, or we went and had a cocktail or something.
So these stores and boutiques, you're going to them and saying, listen, I'll take a picture for you free of charge?
Yeah, it was free of charge at that point.
At that point, free of charge, and it's content for me.
Yeah.
And it's free promotion for you.
I mean, it was just, it's like, and for them, they were like, oh, they're really cool pictures and stuff like this. Like, okay. So then you gain the trust, their trust, and there was no idea how to monetize it really. It was just kind of like, I'm doing something that I like. And I didn't think about it. There was no strategy. But what ended up happening is that a lot of people started seeing these pictures, and they started going to boutiques and brands with like our Instagram page, be like, oh, I've seen this watch, I want to try it on, or I've seen this watch and I want to buy it.
Just the I want to order it. You're taking.
And so we had our watermark, our logo, which is quite distinctive, like on all the photos. So then the brands were like, hang on, how are so many people coming like from this brand or this entity or this website or this social media page? So then we started to get contacted by brands like, hey, we'd like to work together. We'd like to see how we can do things together. And I kind of had to decide at some point, because our following was growing quite fast and I was getting a lot of requests, because at that time, like up until I think 2013 or 14, I was just operating on my own. So this is much earlier than that. And it was like, I was getting a lot of people like, hey, can you help me buy a watch, or can I buy a watch through you? And so I was like, I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. So it was like, what do I do as a business? Do I like start selling watches? Is that what the business is? Or do I do like something that's more in line with marketing and do that? And I kind of sat down and I thought, I prefer the creative side of it. I don't want to compete with these boutiques that have been like providing watches to me to shoot. So I don't want to be a competitor in that case. And maybe I can do something where I can make a company where I choose the clients that I work with, and I work with the brands that I like, and I have access to that, and I make good relationships with them. And that's like fulfilling for me from a creative point of view. So that's kind of the direction that
you take it back a bit. These boutiques, when you were taking pictures of their watches, and these guys will go and take your pictures and go there and say, I want something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, what was the benefit for you to go and do that? Why were you taking these pictures? Did you have an end vision? Or
no,
was just
no, honestly, no. It's like a lot of people tell you, oh yeah, I had this great idea and I followed it. So, and some people are great working like that systematically and methodically, whereas me, I'm like all over the place and I had no clue. I just kind of go a lot with gut feeling and with like what I think works. And I thought, if I think something's cool, maybe other people think it's cool. Then if we can build an audience, then that could be valuable somehow. But I just didn't know how. And it just kind of fell into place by trial and error and seeing what works and then exploring that more, and then seeing something else works, on the back of that, and then exploring that more.
So that's quite interesting. You had to be one of probably the very first people who've jumped onto social media and thought, if you were to build your own community on Instagram, let's say, there is going to be a way for you to create a business out of that. So
yeah, somehow. I just didn't know how it was. And, it all kind of just fell in bit by bit. And it didn't really...
And as far as watches go... I remember around that time, you definitely were the biggest. I mean, sorry, you probably still are, right? But it's first mover advantage, right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I don't really think it's first move advantage, but I think if you see something where you feel like it's missing an ingredient and you can come in with that in an authentic way, I think the authenticity is really key in in a lot of businesses or in a lot of products or a lot of services. If you can be authentic in what you're doing, what you're talking about, what you're showing, what you're selling, what you're offering, then I think that comes across and people really pick up on that. And that's kind of what really helped us to go from what was just me with the camera guy into, you know, the media company that we are today. And I didn't have a business mind. I didn't study marketing. I didn't study economics. I didn't study any business development, anything like that. So it was only really when I started taking on partners and advice from people and turning it into an actual company that we started really monetizing the business in a proper way. But we hadn't sabotaged it. Like, I hadn't become a watch dealer.
Yeah, that to me seems like the natural thing to do when you've got a large following and there's people messaging you, hey, that watch on your the last post, I need one of those, I need one of those. And if you've got all these, you know, like sheikhs and this, that and the other that are saying, get me it, and then there's a way for you to make a margin on each of those. Us being our normal kind of,
you can start thinking, okay, I can find one of those for you.
But you know, I think at the end it was like, the brands are our clients, right? So it's our duty to guide them, to guide the potential buyer as much as we can to the brand.
How do they have so much trust in you though? Like, where's all your knowledge come from? Self-taught?
Yeah, self-taught. Just learning more and more as you go along. It's like
but we've seen people in the industry who've been in there for 10 or 20 years and they've been stung. We've got a client who's actually quite a well-known watch dealer, and even he tells me after 20 or 30 years, he can get stung by fake watches. And apparently there's this machine which you can open up a watch, take each component out, and only then you can tell 100% if it's actually legit or not. I mean, you know,
I don't know about that. I know a watchmaker there's a lot of factors, right? It's like if we take car as an example, as a direct comparison, because it's something that you guys know, you know, you can have varying degrees of fake cars. Let's say you'd have a car that someone's just put together and he's hammered the bodywork himself.
I think in terms of fakes in cars,
right,
which is a lot harder than getting fakes on watches, right? Yeah. But the common one that we see in our industry is like, oh, that's a fake Mansory kit.
Right.
Oh, there's a fake Brabus kit.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, it's actually Chinese, but they've gone and stuck the Brabus
exactly.
So, and a lot of people, I mean, the worst one that we saw was somebody that had a 599.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pretended like it was, so you souped it up like it was a 599 GTO.
Okay.
And just for context, the difference in value is say about £350,000
okay, wow.
minimum.
He went and sold it to a, unassuming guy, and that's it. And the guy was like, "I thought I bought a GTO."
Oh, no way.
He's taken it to Ferrari for his service, and they're like, "Yeah, by the way, you do know that this is
a normal
this is a normal GTV."
Yeah. And that's the problem, I think, because he bought that car during COVID, so it was all done over the phone. It was done through pictures.
Yeah.
And the car just arrived at his dealership, and he's like, "Okay, it looks like a GTO. It's got the badges. It's got everything on there."
Yeah.
Even the badges on the engine were there, and the only time you could actually find out is if you speak to the supplying dealer. So it's actually stupid of him not to do that.
Yeah.
But he got stung the best part of £300,000 or £400,000.
That's crazy.
Surely that happens a lot more in watches.
Yeah, because sometimes it's small details like that, right? So it's like
they just got better and better. The fakes.
You have varying degrees of fakes. So you have the ones that are very easy to spot. I don't know, Toyota MR2 converted into a
Ferrari F360 or something.
360 or 355 or whatever it is, so you have that, which is like maybe not so hard to spot, but then people go the extra mile. Maybe they've changed the engine, maybe they've changed the H gear, the gearbox, maybe, so there comes a point where it's almost all real parts.
Where
it gets to that degree of replica.
I get it. Like, so if there's minute details on a original watch, on a watch, that could mean the difference between it being a 40 grand watch or a 100 grand watch. Then somebody's going to take that time and effort to try and replicate that.
It's like, let's take a rose gold Daytona, for example. Rose gold Daytona on a bracelet. What's the retail? I don't know, 40, 50,000, let's say, for example. But a rose gold Daytona with a rainbow sapphire set bezel and a specific dial, the value is 450,000.
And that has to come from factory as well.
That has to come from factory, But, you know, people can piece these together or get a jeweler to do the bezel and to change the dial and so on and so on. And maybe even to engrave between the lugs and so on and so on. So, you know, that has a big effect on the value.
Okay, so we'll come back to the fakes in a bit.
Yeah.
But so you started off having the blog and then went into Instagram. But when was the actual turning point for you to say, okay, do you know what? Forget everything else. I'm focusing my whole life on making this my career, my business, and my future.
I mean, look, it kind of came in stages, right? It's like I was working an office job. I was making maybe £2,000 a month before tax. So after tax, I'm probably making, I don't know, 1,500, 1,600. By the time you pay your rent, you pay your travel card, which is like £300 a month, you pay your lunches, you do whatever, you're not left with that much, right? Then I'd stop working and I was like, oh, you know what? Okay, if I can do this blogging thing and I can make the same money that I was making while I was working, but I'm at least doing something that I enjoy, okay, that's cool. I'm happy with that. So you reach that point somewhere. Then you're like, oh, you know, it'd be cool. What if I can make double the money that I used to make doing this? Then you reach that point. Then it's like, oh, you know what if I could hire a photographer, or I could hire an art director, or I could hire something.
So the money started coming in not through monetization of you know, the views that you're getting, but instead it was the boutiques saying, hey, can you do a picture for me? Yeah. And I'll pay you this much money.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like that. It was like, okay, really small milestones, you know, okay, maybe I can hire someone and I can still earn that money after I've paid their salary. Okay, I can do that. Okay, now.
What was your first big contract?
It was a brand called 7 Friday, actually.
I remember.
Yeah. And they launched, they had a really cool product. It was like designed in Switzerland, really cool, interesting architectural design, but made in Asia with the Japanese movement. They launched like around 2011, I think. And I remember I had a meeting with the guy who...
it was made in Japan?
Yeah, it was made from... It was a Japanese movement, and then I think the parts were made in China. But from a lot of the factories that watch manufacturers use even today. Because technically, to digress a little bit, for a watch to be Swiss-made, right? 51% of the cost of that watch, meaning the parts and everything, has to originate in Switzerland, but only 51%. So it can be the bracelet, or it could be the movement and the glass. And that might attribute to 51% of the cost. And the final assembly of that watch has to happen in Switzerland, meaning the final parts where the watch is put together has to be in Switzerland.
That's like shoes as well, right?
Yeah,
made in Italy.
Yeah, but it's not made in Italy, you know? It's like in Bangladesh or whatever, and then they ship it over like half finished, and then they finish it in Italy. And that's the way the law works, right? So a lot of parts are still made in Asia. So these guys, they were like, oh, well, we're going to make a watch fully in Asia. We're going to put a Japanese movement in it, but we're going to design it in Switzerland, and it's going to be really interesting architectural design with loads of multiple layers, and the hands are really interesting, and there's like skeletonization in the dial, and it was a really cool, interesting watch.
Quite affordable, right?
Yeah, it was like $1,000, right? For a watch that looked like it was like $5,000 or $10,000. And I remember having a meeting with Daniel, who's the guy that owns the company, at the beginning, and he was like, oh, look, I made 1,000 pieces and I'd like to sell them within a year. And I was like, look, it's really cool, and you know, I think there's a market for this, because I think like this accessible luxury is one, but I think even people that own expensive watches, they want a cool watch to wear to the beach. They don't want to wear a $500,000 watch to the beach, you know. So this could be an angle. And then we started working together, and we started positioning this watch alongside really other expensive watches. You know, so it's always in the picture alongside other really expensive watches and items. And it worked really well, because the perception of that watch is that it's expensive, and we never spoke about the price of it. So then when people went to the website to see it, it's like, oh wow, it's only $1,000. Okay, great. You know, I'll buy 3. So his first thing was like, I want to sell 1,000 watches in the first year. And we had the meeting in September, and then by December he'd sold his first 1,000.
Oh wow.
And then the next year he was like, okay, I want to sell 5,000 watches this year, and I think it was something like 20,000 they sold that year. And so they rode a wave that really, you know, they
20,000 watches.
Yeah.
At $1,000. That's not bad turnover,
it's not bad business, you know.
Wow.
And it grew incrementally, you know. I think he was up to like 100,000 units at some point per year.
Oh my God. And is this still around?
Yeah, I think they're still operating, and I think they still do fairly well. So
wow. But you basically gave that impetus to
I think it kind of, I mean, he was obviously, he had an idea and he was coming with a new product. And me, I was quite new in the industry, but I had a lot of knowledge, and I think we just got on and kind of understood each other. It was difficult to come in as a young guy into the watch industry because you don't have the years of journalistic experience. Let's say like a friend of mine is Nick Folks. Nick Folks is like the editor-in-chief of Vanity Fair. He's got decades of experience in the watch industry. So of course the brands know him and respect him. And there's many other people like that who are very well respected for good reason. So then when a young guy comes in, from London, I'm not Swiss, I turn up, I'm in like colourful suits and, this kind of thing. It's quite different, and it's a bit disruptive, especially
Actually,
in
that is
industry.
one thing I remember about you in your earlier days. Yeah. It was all bright or, you had to be wearing the latest stuff.
Yeah, you kind of need to stand out a bit. And I was always interested in fashion. I was always interested in design and architecture and art and this kind of thing. So all these things kind of influenced me and probably influenced the lifestyle of the images and the videos that we were kind of putting out
hand in hand,
well.
right? Yeah.
So,
and so that was your first big contract, right?
Yeah. And that was, I don't want to say the number, but I mean, relatively, it wasn't that much. But at that time, it was a lot of money.
But did you get percentage or did you get?
No. Yeah. We didn't work like that. Because it's hard to measure this type of stuff. Okay, he says he sold this much, and I say, oh no, it looks like he sold it. What am I going to do? Go through their
So
account?
you just decided, okay,
this is the thing.
Give me a fixed price. That's it, done. Yeah. And so then off the back of that, obviously everybody's thinking, okay, and this is where the transition has happened from you being your 9-to-5 worker to now actually having a serious contract come through. Yeah. And then I'm guessing you've taken this down to other watch brands and said, look what we've just done here. Look what we've achieved.
Yeah,
jump on board as well. I think
because the thing is, a lot of these brands then started, they had younger and younger employees. So the employees were the ones that were going to their brands or their CEOs being like, why are we not doing something with these guys? It's really cool what they're doing. Why have we not been in contact? Oh, we don't know how to get in contact with them. Maybe I know someone that knows them, or maybe I can send them a DM, or maybe I can send them an email. I don't even think Instagram DM came around that early. I think Instagram DM started like 2015 or something like that. So it was much later in the day. And it was like, okay, how do we contact them? And in a way, that kind of worked in our favor because, the cool guys, can't even get in touch with them. Yeah. And the perception was, in the industry, especially, it's like, so Watch Anish is this rich guy whose dad's probably got a lot of money and he's going around in all these like fancy cars and fancy suits and fancy watches. None of it was mine though. It was just, and I didn't put my face on the account for a long time.
Was there a reason behind that?
Yeah, I didn't really want it to be about me. Even today, I don't want it to be about me as such. For me, the interesting part of all of this is not the fame part of it. The interesting part is understanding how the business works, how to make it better, is delivering like really good service to the clients that we work with. And what you learn as you go along is the fame kind of, I would say it detracts from your enjoyment in life a little bit. There's a lot to be said today with how much exposure people give of themselves on social media. I think to have a private life is quite a luxury.
Well, you suddenly, I remember the kind of period that you're talking about with 7 Friday.
Yeah.
And then just thereafter, it just blew up, right? Yeah. And you were working with all the major watch brands, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly it was just every single Insta post was one day in Monaco, one day in Cannes, one day, Singapore, and then you'd just be flying, jet setting.
These guys were funding your traveling around the world.
Yeah, well, we were doing projects for them. They're like, we want you to host a dinner for 20 people in Singapore, 20 of your followers or collectors or whatever. So I'd be like, okay, all right, we'd work out what the financials would be, and then I would go through my black book of collectors that I know that I think are suitable for the brand, whatever the brand is, and we'd do a dinner in Singapore. Then I'd fly back. I'd do something in Switzerland the next day. And
so this black book that is probably still growing till now.
Oh yeah.
How did you develop that? That's obviously where it all comes from.
Yeah, and it came from social media. It came from that.
Really?
It came from, even when we had 5,000 followers, we had celebrities like messaging and or commenting and stuff like this and being like, it's really cool, and I never saw this, and I have a watch collection, but I don't know that much, and I'd love to learn some more. And are you gonna be in New York soon? And oh, you're coming? Okay, great. Let's go out for dinner. Let's go out for lunch. And you'd meet all these people. I remember going to I went to an event for Langenzonne in Lake Como in 2013, I think it was, maybe even 2012. And it was Concourse d'Eleganza, where they have this really nice car show and whatever. And Lange were doing something there. Then I'd got a message, I think it was an email from someone saying, hey, I'm a really big fan of yours and I'm from Switzerland. I saw that you're in Italy, in Como. I'd love to come and have lunch with you. I'm free this weekend. And I would always try and meet people. I didn't really know who it was, and it wasn't like today where you're going to get chivved, so it was it was a lot safer back then. and I was like, okay, sure. I didn't know who the person was. I said, look, I'm flying tomorrow, but I'm flying from Milan airport. So, okay, I'll come down and see you, and I was in Milan airport and he's like, I'm going to come, I'm wearing this. So I was waiting kind of outside the airport and this guy turns up in an SLS Black Series.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
He's 6'4", Ivorian guy in a black Chrome Hearts jacket, wearing a Patek World Time enamel. He's like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And so on. So he told me who he is, and super nice guy. I was like, oh yeah, we started talking. He's like, I'll come in my car. He's like, do you want to drive it? We drove around. And
nice.
And he's like, yeah, I'm global VP for Rothschild's Bank.
Oh my God.
Well, that's the thing. The funny thing is you don't only just come across celebrities, because you put us in touch with someone who recently just listed their company, the Swiss guys.
Yeah.
Who ended up, thanks for that, by the way, who ended up buying a car through us and selling and buying another car through us.
Yeah, their success story is amazing.
But you obviously speak to a lot of people who are under the radar as well. You try and look this guy up online, you wouldn't know anything about him, but he is a serious player. So
yeah,
you get the best of both worlds.
Well, ultimately, these guys are following you because they want to tap into that knowledge bank that you've got.
Yeah.
And, hence they want to meet up with you for dinner. And so it was just crazy watching how your journey evolved into this guy that's just literally jet setting all over the world, party after party, pretty much every single major restaurant in the world. What was that like? Because at points I was like, we touched base along that time, and I was like, shit, how are you keeping up with these? I don't really sleep much. I drink a lot. I'm pretty much drunk every night.
You go through these things, I think, and obviously it's exciting, and having not come from that type of lifestyle, my parents, shopkeepers, they work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week to provide for their kids. So, we didn't have that lifestyle growing up. So of course it's cool, but you burn out very quickly. And then I think my family are really, my family and my extended family are really good, because they help to keep you grounded, in a way. It's you don't get so caught up in everything. You still remember who you are. Yeah, you enjoy things. Of course, you're allowed to enjoy things. But I think especially with fame and social media today, it's there's such an easy black hole to fall into when it comes to ego, and when it comes to all this inflated self-worth and talking down to people. And I see it a lot in other people. And for me, I'm still that same guy. I'm still the same guy that lived above a shop. I'm very happy to go for a kebab or curry or whatever, probably more than I am to go to a 2-3 star Michelin restaurant today, because I've done all that.
Yeah. It's easy for you to say that now that you've experienced it.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to do it, don't get me wrong, and I'm super lucky to have been able to do that.
But when you're doing it all the time, it loses its novelty, right?
Yeah, it's you can't see the wood from the trees. And also, when you're doing that, you're always on, right? Being on, meaning that you're always with people. So you always have to be conversational. You always have to be knowledgeable. You always have to, you have to kind of head the table a lot, most of the time. People look at you for guidance or advice, or they look at you for your personality. Oh yeah, Anish is going to be there. He's super fun. I've heard he's really cool. So you have this personality to live up to. It's something that gets tiring. Sometimes you just you're not in the mood to entertain people, but you have to, of course, because that's why you're there. So you don't want to.
How did you come up with this persona though? Because you sort of, your Instagram page and your journal was faceless. So how did you come up with this party style lifestyle? Or was it something that just became accustomed to?
I enjoy it. It's not that. Of course, I enjoy going out. I'm a very sociable person. I have fun, and I like people around me to have fun. And I think go if you're taking people, for example, these mutual friends of ours, these Swiss guys that we're talking about. They're friends because I don't want anything from them.
And they're probably not used to that. They're probably used to
when
you're
people,
billionaire status.
They're used to people coming up to them. They want something. Oh, I want to meet you. I want to pitch your idea. I want to pitch your business. Oh, I want investment for this. I'm opening like vegan cat food. I don't know, something. It's like they want something, right? I don't want anything actually.
Good business idea.
Yeah, we can start it. It's GVE cat food.
GVE cat food, yeah.
That idea's gone now.
So, where has the company evolved to? Because since working with 7 Friday, then you've worked with what are the major watch brands?
Most of them.
Pretty much most of them, right?
Rolex, Richard Mille, AP. I don't know, a lot of the independent brands, Google Force, MBNF, worked with Tune.
So you've worked with all the main watch brands now, and so the business has evolved into what was just Watch Anish to Watch Anish Media. So how does that differ to where you were a few years back?
Because then we're in a position to work with, let's say, groups like LVMH and Richemont and stuff in a different way, in a way that's linked more towards strategy of doing things rather than like here's a product and go and promote it kind of thing, which I think gives more value. And I feel like there's a lifespan for everything, right? It's like we were saying, you put up a picture of a Speciale. At the beginning, it's like, wow, everyone's into it. But after 100, 200 Speciale pictures all over the internet, no one really gives a shit anymore. So,
nobody.
I swear.
No
one really cares anymore,
But it's not even 100, 200. It's like probably like
you see one in every
1 million.
Yeah,
2
exactly,
million now.
exactly.
So we could get a Chiron in today, right? And the Chiron will post some pictures like getting really excited about it.
But people have seen
it.
Left, right and centre. I mean, the amount of people who go in, if we're talking about cars, you go down Sloane Street and you will see a crowd of maybe about 50 photographers who are then going to be posting it on every social platform out there, who are then going to have their own crowd of people who want to repost their pictures. So it's not very exciting now at the moment.
Yeah, it really isn't. But so now you're rather than saying to the brand, okay, you're releasing a new watch, I'm gonna help you promote it, right? You're actually sitting with them at a higher level saying, actually, this year, we want to help you with your strategy.
We help with the strategy, we help with the placement, we help with some of the partnerships, we help with, basically, a big part of it is where the bridge between the brand and the final client, right? It's like where that trusted bridge between the two. So it could be events, it can be a lot of different stuff, but it's much more involvement from that side, and it's much less about advertising in the traditional way, because I feel like that ship kind of sailed a little bit. I feel like it worked for a very long time, like a lot of things. Like we started so many trends, let's say in the watch category. Like take a picture of your watch with your supercar steering wheel, take a picture of your watch on your table with like, I don't know, your pen and your wallet, which is from Goyard, and just glasses, which are from Tom Ford, and so all of these lifestyle types of scenarios, I wouldn't say invented them, even if we did or we didn't, but we popularized them. It was like the thing that worked really well.
But now
we came and we did shoots with a lot of your
shoots.
cars, and it worked really well. It was like, oh wow, that's a Gruber Force, which is $500,000 inside a Aventador or inside a SVO or SVJ, and it's this
well. You
much,
had some you had some PR kind of stunts, didn't you, back then as well? I don't remember you done something with Yanni or something. I
lit a cigar, I think, with his. It wasn't even a PR stunt. Yeah. We were shooting something in Sorters on Mount Street, which is a cigar shop. And I said to him, I'd really love to have a picture of your car outside the store, and maybe I could have someone, one of our models in a suit, getting out your car with this watch, and it's on Mount Street and whatever. We finished a shoot, and I was like, just out of like intrigue, I was like, like your car shoots out these flames. He's like, yeah. I said, do you reckon we could light a cigar with it? He's like, I don't know. I was like, should we try? He's like, yeah. So we put the car in the middle of the road and we started trying to light the cigar, and obviously the force of the exhaust ripped this cigar to shreds, but it did actually like start smoking. And then unbeknown to me or to us, people were taking videos and taking pictures, and then the Metro ran a story about this rich moron trying to light his cigar with the exhaust of his Aventador. It wasn't my Aventador, it was Yanni's, but so it's small little things like that. It was completely unplanned. It's not like it wasn't a PR stunt. It was just something that I thought would have been
because
fun.
Of that, we had a customer who ended up buying an Aventador from us.
Oh really?
I think you may have set the trend of how to do that. It's lighting up cigarettes or cigars with your exhaust. He did the same, but I think he didn't do it clever enough. He had an R8 about two steps away and burnt the whole back end of the R8 bumper.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Trying to light a cigar.
Yep, lighting. No. I think it was a cigarette or a cigar or something he was lighting, revving the shit out of the car. Yeah. And then the whole front face of the bumper of the R8 is just melted and burnt as well.
Oh, no.
But
there you go.
Such is life. See, look what you're making people.
Look what you started, yeah.
Sorry.
Of course, at this point, you from your journal to Instagram, you've now started winning contracts. Were you managing your whole account yourself at that point?
At the beginning, yes, but after a while, it's not possible to manage that volume of content and engagement and so on. And then at some point, it was like, okay, I need to take on some strategic partners, because I know the creative side, but not proficiently. I'm not the person, the only person for the business side. It's kind of like a football team. You need people in different positions, and you have to understand where your strength is and concentrate on that rather than trying to do everything.
What made you realize?
I think you try and do everything, but you can't do it as well. And obviously, when it's your business, you're your own business owner. It's your baby, right? So you have such a phobia and an allergy to letting anyone into your business because you feel like, oh man, what if they don't do it good enough? But you yourself can only do so much. Like maybe you're not doing certain parts of it good enough as well. You can't do the creative and the accounting and all the negotiations and the outreach and client relationship management and art direction, photography, videography, blah blah blah. You can't do everything. You have to understand where your limitations are. So it was kind of like that realization, like, hey, maybe I should look and I should find, the right people to come in. And then that took some trial and error as well. And eventually, I brought in a strategic partner who's still with me today. Her name's Paula, and she came from banking, and she has that real business edge from that side, and completely antisocial. So like the opposite of me, which is great because what the issue that I had early on, I was hiring people who were great. I was always hiring young team, who were quite driven and especially people who hadn't worked in the watch industry, because I didn't want people with, a scripted idea of how to do things. I wanted people who were quite free thinking and maybe could learn in a different way or be taught in a different way.
But that's actually the McLaren philosophy as well. Yeah. They hate hiring people from the car industry. And I believe there's a lot of benefit to that.
But what happened, not always, but a lot, is that when they travel to all these exotic places and they're working and they're around all these people who have a lot of money and they're surrounded by opulence, then they try and latch onto that rather than doing the work, So it's like the efficiency of the work decreases because they're enjoying the lifestyle too much. Or their goal is then to become famous. Their goal is not to be part of a team, So there was a lot of personnel in and out and so on and so on. But you learn as you go along.
How big is the staff base today?
Actually, we cut down a lot in terms of full-time staff, and we increased a lot in terms of the, what would you call it, consultants.
Yeah, got it.
Because it's just leaning out the business a lot more. There's, in our business, there's not a need to have 30 people full-time. Because if you're doing something, a lot of the time, the project that you're doing for one company is different to a project you're doing for another. Because maybe we're doing something for a watch brand, which is one thing and requires one type of thought process and one type of execution, whether it's content, whether it's strategy. And then we might be doing something for a private bank, which is slightly different. So
so you've deviated away from just watches now.
Yeah, because you can only grow the business so much, right? There's only a finite number of watch brands, and out of those watch brands, there's only a certain number that you think you can deliver good service to because you believe in the product, you believe in their strategy and their positioning and so on. So you feel like you have a good value add there, because there's no point working with a brand where you don't think you can add much. Maybe you don't believe in their direction.
What kind of industries do you work with then?
So for us,
private
it's
banking,
super broad. It's basically, here's the audience. It's watch enthusiasts or watch collectors. A lot of them, are buying and collecting watches. What are the other things that they like? Private banking, fine wine, alternative investments, private aviation, real estate, super high-end hospitality like our Swiss friends, everything, art galleries, all of this type of stuff, you know, and it's how, because we understand that client, we understand that consumer. So then it's like, okay, it's the same way that the same client of yours who's invited by Lamborghini or Ferrari or Koenigsegg to their events because he's a Koenigsegg client, he's probably also a Richard Mille client. He probably also gets invited to their events, and he's probably also Julius Baer or Coutts or JP Morgan client. He gets invited to all their stuff, and probably Lursen or Palmer Johnson or one of these yacht builders, and also Airbus, and you know. So
in essence, you create this kind of base of high net worth individuals. You segment them, and then you kind of say, okay, well, this segment would be interested in X, Y, and Z, and then you approach X, Y, and Z, and you say to them, hey, look, we've got the right segment of people that you can market to.
Yeah, and really our business has worked in a way where we're quite the opposite of outreach, right? It's like, it's almost like you have to approach us, and then if we like the business and the product, then we'll work with you. Like years ago, we took
cool position to
we
be
took
in.
the website offline,
really?
Made it like very, it's like, you have to know someone to get in contact, and then you can get in contact. And
it goes back to your original, which was nobody could contact you. So because they couldn't contact you, they want to contact you even more.
But look at this. It's, you know, the human psychology, right? I never studied it, but I learned more and more about it the more I did this. The easier it is to have something, the less you want it.
Yeah.
Right? This is exactly
so
the industries that we're talking about. Supercars and watches. If I can go and buy a SP2 tomorrow, do I really want it? Probably not.
Yeah, it's
but
available to everyone.
if I have the bragging rights because 25 people that I know got turned down for that car and I went and bought it,
there you go.
Then that's giving me my justification of buying that car, right?
And paying the crazy money.
And paying whatever it was on top. And it's the same with watches. And for me, it's the same in terms of access. You know, it's like you have to work a little bit to get it. And then we have to figure out, you know, if it's the right fit. Because we don't want to just work with everyone. I don't want to take everyone's money if it's not going to work. You know, there's no point. It's a waste of resources on both sides. And for us, our portfolio is really, you know, one of our strongest assets. The brands we worked with, the projects that we've done. There's not...
Are there any major success stories that you've had recently that you can share with us?
I mean, a lot of it, we have NDAs now that are like this thick because it wasn't like that before. Like, people didn't really care. But now, you know, all these luxury brands understand social media. Before, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, you know, let's just work with them and see what happens. I remember, like, our first big project with Rolex, Rolex in Spain. I was on a trip with Tudor, which is like a sister brand, or it's under the same company. And we went to MotoGP in Mugello. And some of the regional heads of Rolex were there, and one of the guys was the head of Spain, and he said, look, you know, we really love what you do, and we have a project in Spain maybe we could do together. There was a retailer in Mallorca who had been a Rolex retailer for 135 years.
Wow.
And they had made for sale a steel Submariner with a special engraving on the back, and it was 135 pieces for them to sell only through their store in Mallorca to their big clients. And he said, look, we started delivering these, but they've only sold 10 or 12 watches so far. And maybe there's something you can do to help to push the awareness of it. Maybe you guys have the right audience for it. You know, we really like what you do and, you know, your approach to stuff. And so we spoke about everything. We spoke about the metrics and the numbers and everything. And it worked. So I went with 2 of my team to Mallorca. We landed, I remember, like, I don't know, 8 or 9 in the morning. I went to the store, had a look at, you know, the products and so on, and I kind of figured out what's going to work best. So we started shooting the product and the language and how we're going to portray it and how we're going to tell the story of it. And we posted it that day. This is before Instagram stories was around, so it was like just posts. And we posted the first piece of content at like 12:30 or 1 p.m. And by 8 p.m. they'd sold all 120 something pieces, like cash.
And he'd only sold 10 up to that.
It sold like 12, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
That's insane. I know you don't really want to put figures out there and you can't say, but what is the average cost for you to, not necessarily sponsor, but to work out some form of a deal?
I don't know, honestly, I mean, a lot more than it used to be. I don't know. I don't like to put out numbers. I don't think, of course, money is important. Numbers are important. But for us, it's really like finding the right projects to do.
Could you say what your biggest project was then?
We've done multiple 7-figure projects.
Oh wow!
So
That's serious.
which is I'm very happy for, very lucky for. So
We've got a Veyron for sale.
Yeah.
If you want to buy one.
you could pay me and I'll take it.
Okay. So back onto the subject of fakes.
Yes. Okay.
That has been a big topic in the industry lately.
Yep.
I remember back in the day there was an account called Fake Watchbuster.
Yeah,
That was quite
very
fun
cool.
to
Yeah, it was very cool.
watch because a lot of people were wearing fakes at that point, right?
The amount of fights you used to see off the back of that.
Really?
They've done that, the fake Watchbuster, and they've got the same thing for fake Clothesbuster as well.
No way.
And you just see the actual celebrities that go and post themselves wearing it. They come into the comments and they're defending themselves, and it's like, it's literally a parody just watching this, thinking you're digging yourself a deeper and deeper hole now.
God, there's so many haters online, isn't there, as well? Sometimes. So even when you are wearing something real, then suddenly like you're getting called out for wearing something fake.
I have a guy that I buy from sometimes. He's a personal shopper called like the Notorious Plug, and then he started this.
He's
Notorious
the guy
Buster,
started it,
and he was posting all these people like who did he post? Like a bunch of like Sky Sports presenters and some rappers.
Josh always gets onto Josh Denzel. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Josh Denzel follows us, so we've got nothing against him. But
No, I have nothing against any of these people.
But why do they rip into him? It's like every other post is him wearing something fake.
Yeah, but he was wearing fake stuff. And you got to think about it. This guy's business is personal shopping, right? This guy's business is to provide real clothes to people who will spend a reasonable amount of money on those clothes. Probably either the same or less than, or more sometimes, because the access to those clothes is not available. So for him, if you look at it from his perspective, a famous guy going around wearing fake Gucci or
I think he knowingly wears fake.
I think if you get caught wearing one T-shirt, no. But I think if you get caught wearing 50 different outfits, it's like.
But he could have just gone and bought 50 in one go.
Do you know what? That's the thing. It's so easy. So we have so many personal shoppers approaching us.
Yeah.
And you see in the background, James is smiling, the producer as well. That we got caught out. He was a customer. Bought a Urus. His dad had a whole load of cars. So you think, okay, this guy's from money. He's not going to be messing around with fakes. He came into the showroom once, and he came in with like LV bags, came in with boxes of trainers and T-shirts and jumpers. And you're thinking, they must be legit. Like, there's no real way of finding out. Bought them. James then decided to try and sell something he bought, and then found out 2 years down the line that it was fake. And he's like, it's a really good copy, but it's fake. And the guy's just vanished now. You can't get a hold of him. And he's not the only person.
And that's where you got most of your clothes from as well, right?
Luckily, I only did a couple. I did a couple from him. But there's another massive guy, SM, right? SM, Sam Morgan.
Oh, okay.
He must be doing real stuff.
He must be doing real stuff because he's in with all the footballers. Right?
Yeah. But there's so many of them competing with each other. And it's not as though you're buying it for a really cheap, discounted price where you think, okay, it's going to be fake. You're paying the best part of retail, but just getting a slight discount. So you think, okay, he's looking after me. So many people are getting stung on this.
You know, I don't get stung because I go to Uniqlo.
See?
Oh, no, you just go directly to the shop.
I go directly to Uniqlo.
Smart, see?
David's got his special entrance at the village in Westfield. It's a parking spot outside.
But there's like a psychology, right? I really didn't understand of like famous, wealthy celebrities wearing fake stuff in public, and not just wearing it, but like showing it off. Like, I think he really got into Josh Denzel because he's really showing off everything that he's wearing. He's showing off his watch, which is fake a lot of the time.
Wasn't there a point though people were doing it for safety? Like they will try and wear a replica. So
okay,
people
but
think it's fake.
Think about this argument, right? You're doing it for safety. You don't want to get robbed. You don't want to get stabbed. But you're wearing a fake, so you're already bringing that energy to you because the guy across the street who's scoping you out and checking you, or the waiter in the restaurant who's like got a call to his mate outside saying, oh, there's this guy and he's coming with an AP, he's coming with this diamond Rolex. You're still bringing that energy into you. So what are you really protecting yourself from?
Well, the point is that actually the whole purpose of wearing a fake is to show somebody that you're something.
Right, yeah.
That, you know, if you're not comfortable with the way that with the person that you are, like, I just think it's stupid sometimes.
I think, you know, that you have that argument, which you said, but I just don't think it really holds water, right? Yeah. And I think the thing is, if you've worked to achieve certain things, you remember what it's like to buy your first car, you know, with your own money. You remember what it's like to buy your first watch, whether it's a Rolex, and then you remember what it's like to buy your first Patek. Then you know what it's like to buy your first RM. You know,
It's a
you know
life
what that
experience.
feeling is, but you also know how hard you worked, how many years you worked, how many nights you stayed up, you know, how much shit you had to put up with to get to that point. And it's not that is your lifetime achievement, but it's a measurement of some success.
part of
It's a
it.
celebration of something, right?
And then
I don't want to be at dinner and some guy's next to me with a fake version of the watch I busted my ass to wear
Yeah.
to
And he's still
buy,
getting the
and
same
he's wearing a
attention for
fake
it.
version of it, getting the same
Respect for
accolades
it, yeah.
or respect, you know. And today, if we're being honest and completely transparent, a lot of purchases today, 80% of it is about status and
100%.
what it says about you, you know, because like a Prius is going to get you around London in the same time as you know, a
Lamborghini
supercar is
Aventador,
going to
whatever.
get you in the traffic and everything.
But even with status, like actually where the watches differ from cars is that you can take your Lamborghini
Yeah.
to go to a dinner in Mayfair and all your mates are already inside.
Yeah.
You're not going to be like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah, yeah.
guys, come
Yeah,
outside and
no
see
one's
the
gonna
car
come
that I
outside.
pulled up in Regent
Yeah.
Park down there,
Yeah,
right?
100%. I had this exact scenario. I was in Dubai. I went to dinner at Arts Club. I was wearing an RM skull, and I went to dinner with a friend of mine. He was a very successful, very wealthy guy. He had a Chiron downstairs. We were sitting upstairs having dinner. He was wearing a Patek, like a platinum Patek, but like the pre-anniversary. There's only 30 pieces made. So the dial is like very slightly darker than the normal steel version, but it's only if you know kind of thing. And it has like a very small diamond here at 6 o'clock because all the platinum Pateks have this small diamond. And he's like, you know what? We're at dinner. He's like, everyone is looking at your watch. Every single person. No one gives a shit about what I'm wearing. I've got a fucking like $3 million Chiron downstairs. No one even fucking knows.
No one's seeing it.
It's like, it's a joke.
Well, there
And
you
we're
go.
laughing about it, but it's true.
That's
This
where
is-
watches do come in handy, right?
Yeah, and I think the whole setup over here at GVE as well is that's how it's adapted because people buy these as a status of wealth and they buy this as an achievement to show that, yes, okay, I've got this. I'm now, not to show off to people, but I can now show people that this is what I've achieved. To then go hand in hand into social media and say, okay, come down, we'll do a whole experience for you, a handover. You can then post it all over your socials. We'll put it on our socials. And you go almost insta-famous by us posting it. I think that in itself is enough reason for people to want to come and buy from us because they want that clout. They don't directly want it, but in the background, they want to be known and seen by their friends and family. Like, oh, wow, you just gone and bought that.
There's no two ways about it, right? That every single person that buys a supercar from us, in some shape or form,
They want to be seen.
they want to be seen, right? And no matter how much people know, I want a black car, I just want to be understated. It's
you go and buy a Ford one day.
Then go and buy an RS6.
Yeah.
Why are you buying a Ferrari? But it's inherent in all of us.
Yeah,
right?
listen.
And I'm not saying it's
I think
thing.
the more you understand it and the more you accept it, there's necessities we need as humans, right? We need food, we need water, we need shelter, but there's emotional necessities, and part of that is consumption. Honestly, in an emotional way, at some level, you need that
Well, it's
consumption.
acceptance. It's acceptance from your community, right?
Yep.
So it's a sense of belonging.
Yeah, and some people are better at managing it than others, and some people feel they don't need it at all, which is amazing, and I'm super happy and envious of them, you know. But I think majority of people, they need something, you know, to make themselves feel better. They had a bad day, they had a bad week. I don't know, this is going to make me feel better.
Yeah.
You know, a girl, she has she's not enjoying herself at work. She takes her paycheck. Oh, you know, I'm going to go buy a pair of shoes. It's going to make me feel better. Even on a small level like that, you know. So,
But so going back to the fakes, the stuff that's blowing up on social media recently, like I saw a video the other day of Rick Ross wearing a green AP. Is that right?
Yeah.
And a famous YouTuber has Nico called him out. So what was your view on that?
So I know about this story from a while ago. So Nico's a really great guy, by the way, and he's another one that's like really brought good awareness to the watch market by the way that he presents and the way he talks, and he's really energetic. He's really funny, you know. And so basically, this watch is, you can't buy this watch on its own because it's part of a set of 10 pieces made by AP. You can only buy it as a set of 10. Okay, they only have manufactured one set of 10 so far, which belongs to a friend of mine from Italy. And the set of 10 that was produced for the 50th anniversary of AP a couple of years ago. So he has the set. I've seen the set. It's his. They've not produced another one yet. So it's impossible for Rick Ross to have that watch because he would have to have the other 9 of that watch. And AP themselves said they've only produced one set. So it's impossible. What he's probably got is a real AP movement, which is akin to a real movement from a Lamborghini, let's say, and a jeweler has built a white gold case and bracelet and set it with emeralds and set the dial with emeralds, and it looks like that watch, and he's probably paid 100 grand for it, 200 grand.
Where's the
Whereas the original one, that set of 10 is like $12 million.
Wow.
I mean, for the likes of, let's say, Rick Ross, I'm assuming he's not a professional watch connoisseur. How easy would it have been for him to, let's say,
some
sold
people,
that as a 12 million?
some people have been conned. Don't get me wrong. Like there was a rapper, who was it now?
Fetty
Uzi Vert or one of these guys, I forget. But he went to the Grammys or some awards thing, and he was wearing a fake Patek 5980 anniversary, and it came out, and he said, "Listen, it's not my watch. I borrowed it from this jeweler who told me it's real." And the jeweler had to come out and apologize and be like, "Yeah, I gave him the watch and it wasn't real, and I didn't know." But so sometimes, yes, it can happen. Rick Ross, I don't think unknowingly paid $1 million something for that watch. I think
in your time
Yeah.
of like 15 years now, whatever it is,
yeah.
you must have seen some crazy instances of this happening.
Yeah.
Like what's the one that stood out?
I mean,
the
like,
most?
there's a few. There was like, I'm trying to think. There's loads of footballers.
Really?
Loads of footballers.
What's the most famous footballer that's got caught? Definitely not Ronaldo.
No, Cristiano Ronaldo, no. But he has a lot of contracts, and I mean, no, he's got a lot of money.
People
and
are
he
just
buys a lot
throwing watches at him.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Ronaldinho was one that surprised me.
Really?
Because Ronaldinho is one of my heroes, like, as a footballer, amazing. Like, maybe, I'm a Liverpool fan, of course, I was supporting them from young, but watching Ronaldinho is like, you love the way he plays. He's so skillful. He's probably the most technically gifted player I ever saw in my life. I remember going to New Camp in like 2002 or 2003 and watching him playing. It was like, oh my God, this guy's incredible. And he was wearing not one, but like multiple different fake watches over a period of time. And I made a video about it, and I said, look, it's someone that whenever we've brought up anything about a fake watch about a person, it's never anything personal, right? Because I don't know the person, and most people are generally quite nice. I always believe that people are nice unless I'm proved or shown otherwise.
Yeah.
I tend to have this like optimistic outlook on people. So it's nothing as a person, but it was like, look, this is fake, and this is why it's fake. It's never made in this material. This is the dial configuration is incorrect like this. The thickness of the watch is like this. Is not real. Blah 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 blah. And obviously, you got a lot of people commenting, and a lot of people saying, "Oh, he's the greatest," and you just don't like him. And no, it's not. I love the guy, but
he's just wearing a lot of watches.
I have to say it because watches are something that I've invested in. Watches are something that a lot of people have invested their money in. And if it becomes okay to wear a fake watch, that puts at risk the investment that you've made into real watches.
It really does.
It's like if you're real estate and you buy this plot of land here, you build your showroom, and then next to you there's like a guy who's building a sewage factory. You're going to be like, no, I don't want that to happen, because that's going to affect the real estate value.
Resale value. Well, have you seen what's happened with the diamond industry at the moment?
Yeah, with the lab-grown diamonds. Yeah, of course.
It's nuts. Any of my jeweler friends that I speak to, they're just like, the prices have taken a hit.
Yeah, of course.
They really have.
Yeah.
How much are like the top fakes going for? So like very, very A1 quality fakes.
I mean, there's like fake, and then there's like what's called Franken. So Franken is like Frankenstein, where it's like a mixture of fake and real parts, up to the point where it's all real parts, but they never were born together. Right. So there was one quite famous case recently of an Omega Speedmaster that sold at auction for $2 million.
Wow.
Which is a lot
for an Omega.
A lot for an Omega. Like, really.
Did it have some special provenance?
So apparently it had special provenance. This is the story that they'd given it. What had happened was the buyer had bought it for $2 million, whatever. And then there's a guy on Instagram called Periscope. It was like a real nerdy, real encyclopedia of knowledge on a lot of stuff. And what he put together was an investigation on this watch. And he showed that this same watch was sold, configured differently, with a different bezel, with a different dial, with different pushes, and a different serial number on the movement bridge like 9 years ago by an auction house, right? So it was a black dial. It was I can't remember exactly. Maybe it was a Bakelite bezel. The hands were different. The pushes were different. Blah blah. And it sold for what was a normal price back then. I don't know, $30,000 or $40,000, whatever. This watch had then since been purchased by someone who is a dealer who had a contact within Omega. He changed the dial to a type of dial which is called tropical. So a tropical dial is basically a dial that is very old and has been in the watch for decades and been subjected to heat and humidity. So in a tropical country, maybe South America, maybe Asia, something like that. And because of that, the black turns to like a chocolate brown. And the more brown it goes, the more valuable it is.
Oh, wow.
So, and the hands had been changed to match the dial, and the pushes were changed to match a certain production period, and the bezel was changed. And what was interesting was that the bridge of the movement had a serial number, and that bridge was changed to a specific serial number to match a certain period in time. Because this dealer had someone that he knew that worked inside Omega that went into the archives of all the watches that they made and gave him a serial number that he could use to engrave onto the back of this watch. And then this watch went to auction and sold for $2 million.
Whereas it should have been?
Whereas it should have been 50, 60,000.
Oh my God.
100,000 maybe.
What, you know, there's like a lot of similarities with the supercars and watches itself, but some cars could be so sought after that once they become vintage, the prices of them go up ridiculously. I mean, are watches similar to that? So as they become rarer, or some older pieces will go into auctions for ridiculous prices?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, with Rolex, it's quite difficult because they never kept like absolute records of their pieces up until before the, let's say, early to mid 80s. With Patek, they have an archive of everything, but like, you know, there's numerous occasions where vintage Pateks have sold for 6-7 million. You know, maybe it's belonged to it was a unique piece made for a certain person, maybe a president, maybe you know, a person of interest. And for vintage Rolex, especially the Daytonas, the Paul Newman Daytonas, and then the variations of those, like the lemon dial in the yellow gold, or the RCO, which is like basically the difference of the RCO is that it says Rolex Cosmograph Oyster instead of Rolex Oyster Cosmograph. So it's just the order of the writing.
Smallest detail
at the top of the dial is different, and there it said that there's like between 3 to 7 that were made like that, almost by mistake. So those are worth like $2 million, whereas a normal one of the same watch is worth 200,000.
And actually, your watch there, that's a pretty striking watch compared to your normal Royal Oak, right? So, but what's the value of that one? So
this is it's an addition of 75 pieces made for the UAE, so it's sold only in the UAE in stainless steel. The retail price I think is like back then $160,000, $170,000.
Okay.
Market value is like $450,000, $500,000.
Wow. So they're good investments, right? Watches.
It depends, you know. It depends on what you know about the brand. I think, like with anything, whether it's stamps, whether it's watches, whether it's art, the more you know about it, the more educated decision you can make on you know how good an investment it is. There's been a huge bull run, let's say, on watches.
About to say, and you've taken the words out of my mouth, but a bull run 3 years ago, the crypto market fueled the massive price increases in cars to a certain extent, but in watches to a massive extent.
It was astronomical, right?
So what did you put that down to? I mean, like just crypto guys like watches?
I think it's a mixture of stuff, right? It was hard to export cars or ship cars during COVID. It wasn't that hard to buy watches so small and to ship it. But I think more so, people had time to just be at home on their phones. So it was like, okay, people started learning about watches. And then it was like, okay, that can be cool. This sells for over retail. The demand for this is high. So people that would never normally invest or buy in a watch or just weren't interested, they'll buy or have a Rolex, or maybe they'd have a Patek. But it overnight became like a stock market product. It was like, okay, if I can buy a Nautilus 5711 in steel at retail is 35,000, market is 150. So if I need to buy that 35,000 and I need to buy a pair of earrings from that jeweler to keep him happy, if I need to spend another 30,000 on a pair of diamond earrings for my wife, I spent 65, but the value of this is 150. I'll just do that, and I'll give him a kickback of it. And this is how everyone thought. So then all the allocations started getting taken, not by people that wanted the watch or loved the watch or worked so hard to get it, but by people that bought it for speculative future value.
Right, yeah.
So
I mean, we saw it. We saw it firsthand in the car market. Exactly the same thing.
Right.
Just the values went absolutely astronomical.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, there are certain cars out there where, let's take, for example, something like the Porsche GT3 RS. People were being told that you had to buy or spend enough money to the amount of, let's say, 10 cars, have a history of buying 10 cars for them, and then you'll be able to get a special model. Recently is another well-known YouTuber who's ended up releasing a video which has backed up what we were saying. He fake called Porsche and said, I want a GT3 RS, I've got no history, what do you recommend I do? Yeah. They said their worst selling car at the moment is a Taycan. And they said, okay, buy 2 Taycans from us and we'll sell you a GT3 RS. Wow. So you've got people that are on this waiting list who have probably spent God knows how much money in trying to build up a history, who are probably then going to be told, no, you can't buy that car because Joe Bloggs off the streets just walked in and bought a Taycan and taken their slot. Yeah. So it's funny to know that there's similarities between the car and the watch world like that.
There's a lot. And there's so many cases of bribing and all of this stuff. Like
really?
Yeah, loads.
In the watch game?
Yeah,
Because,
loads.
we've discussed this on this podcast many times.
Are you allowed to say it?
About cars. What
you did?
Oh, man. No. There's been so many instances, but look, we're just kind of, if you're competing against a whole bunch of guys that want the same thing as you, right? Yeah, you have to play the game one way or another, right? And or you can scream and shout about the fact that it's not fair, right? In which case, hopefully they'll give it to you, right? But failing that, then the only other way is, okay, look, what do you want? Yeah. Let me give you a little backhander or something like that.
There's loads of this stuff.
They have a monopoly on the market, so it's almost like you have to give in to what they want. And unfortunately, the second-hand market dictates that. So you buy a car, something, let's go back to the GT3 RS, you're able to double your money overnight by just flipping it. Yeah.
But don't you think, like, I always feel like there's too much power in hand of the person who can allocate certain things. Yeah. Because it completely changes. It's meant to be a luxury product, whether it's a car, whether it's a watch, whatever it is. Even Loro Piana's, honestly, it's like if you don't know a guy at Loro Piana, you can't even buy the shoes. They want you to buy like 2 cashmere sweaters and whatever. And I understand because the shoe is so popular, but they're known for their cashmere, they're known for their vicuna and whatever, so they don't only want to sell that stuff. But it becomes such a hype product that they can't just have you walk in and just buy shoes. Wow. So it's like, it goes across multiple categories. Okay, take the Hermes Birkin example. It's the easiest and the oldest like narrative in this type of thing. And then all the power lies with the salesperson at Hermes, right? It really does. So it's like, okay, you know, someone goes in, I want to buy a Birkin or whatever. They're like, no. And then it's like, then eventually you keep going in. Do you know how many people I know that have paid for holidays, paid for, you know, even cash in an envelope to people at Hermes for like bags and stuff like that?
The kind of ladies that we get coming into the store at Big Easter to buy Hermes bags, they're so wealthy. Yeah. And they just much rather come into the store and pay the price rather than messing around. Yeah. Like, don't make me buy 10 other things before.
Yeah, because overall you'll end up spending more money doing it the official way than just buying it second hand.
Don't make me second guess whether I'm going to get it or not. Just, I've got the money. Here you go. Simple transaction. See you later. Yeah. And conversely, the other one is the fact that actually, Hermes, when they call somebody up and say, I've got a Birkin for you, you don't ask them what colour.
No, you just take it. Yeah. But this is the unwritten rule apparently in this field. I mean, you know, because you're other business, but I've been told the same thing. Yeah. If like, you know, this is the way it is.
Yeah. In the car market, though, I think they are kind of switching onto it now. So Mercedes, for example, we've seen what happened with the G63s. I mean, for a car that's only £160,000 was trading up to 250 grand is insane in overs. Yeah. So now the dealers aren't able to sell a car to a customer. It has to come directly from the factory. So now they make the decisions, which sort of eradicates any individual salesperson saying, okay, this is my guy, I'm going to end up selling him a car.
Direct from factory.
So it has to come direct from the factory, and you're building your rapport with the factory. And I think slowly but surely, in the car world anyways, that's surely going to be the case. But in the watch world, do you think it'll follow?
I don't know. I think there's too many variables. The itinerary is too big. The inventory is too big, I think, especially if you're multi-brand retailers. Because multi-brand retailers that have a strong brand, let's say one of the top 5, so Patek, AP, Richard Mille, Rolex, and FP Journe, let's say, for example. 5 like really strong brands, but then they might have some that are not so strong, that are still equally good, but just not strong in the market. They're not holding money. People don't really have the desire to, or they might have jewelry, and it's easy to make big margin on jewelry. On a pair of diamond earrings, the margin is like 3x or 4x. So how are they going to sell all that diamond jewelry? They leverage, on the watch. It's like, so it might not be, okay, give me a backhander, but it might be like, okay, well, if you want to buy some jewelry for your wife or something like that, so then you have to spend 50K on jewelry to get the watch that you want.
One of our clients who done that. It's with Boodles, but
his house was burgled, right? His house was burgled. They stole all of his wife's jewelry. He went to Boodles and said, "Listen, I'm going to buy it. I've had insurance payout. I'll buy all the jewelry from you guys, but I want the
Patek.
What's the rose gold Nautilus? The code for it?
It depends. 5990, 5980, 5711 rose.
I think it's 5980.
Okay.
And he got that at list.
Yeah.
And spent 40,000 with them on the jewelry. It just made sense.
Do you find that now that you've got this, not now, you've had it for a while, but you've got an influencer status, you can walk into any one of these dealers and get yourself any watch you want?
Yeah, but I don't really like it, to be honest. It's not my thing. I don't like asking for stuff. I never did.
Even for your personal collection?
No, I'd just buy it, If I can buy it, I'll maybe ask for something, rarely. But a lot of the time, no. I don't really do it. It's not my thing.
Do you have a big collection?
Not as big as a lot of the people that I know, but bigger than I would have ever imagined when I was growing up, yeah.
So is that in the dozens or in the...
Less than 100, more than 50.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. And so is that just to store away as a almost like a store of wealth that one day this is what I'm going to pass on to kids or something? Ish,
kind of. Maybe some of the vintage ones. But I try to wear, and I do wear a lot of the watches that I buy because I enjoy them. I bought them for a reason. I get a different emotion every time, depending on what watch I'm wearing.
Watch that you got?
Really depends, like if it's day to day, something simple, something that I know if I'm going to hit it, I'm not going to be that bothered about it, like this Rolex Celebration dial, the blue with the balloons on it that they released last year, which is like, the retail is like 4,000, the market is like 20,000, I don't know.
Really? Crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
It's a fun watch, but Rolex have this, they brought out this watch called the Puzzle. It's a day with like this hand enamel, like puzzle pieces, and the day doesn't say the date, it says different phrases like love or passion or happiness or something, and the date, which normally says the date, is just different emojis like a heart or a smiley face or something. And they made this with, I'm not sure exactly what the relationship is, but it's something to do with the charity for autism. But they released hardly any pieces, so the retail price for this watch is $51,000, but the secondary market price is like nearly 300,000.
Oh wow.
And this happens all the time with watches. It's not even unusual. So like Watches and Wonders is coming up in April, and you're going to see a bunch of new releases, and you're going to see a bunch of stuff that has a retail price of X and a market price of 5X.
Bloody hell. That's just crazy. I think that's a lot better than cars in terms of appreciation straight off the bat, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's some cars you can do it, but it sounds like with watches, there's a lot more options out there.
I think you have so many SKUs with watches, so much inventory. And the brands know what work, right? They know that there's demand for this. They'll discontinue this, and at the end, it's like if the demand outstrips the supply.
Yeah.
Do you think that will ever... I mean, we saw a massive price correction in the watch market, right, recently, with interest rates going high and, the market going a little bit dead.
Yeah.
And that's give me an example of how much it corrected itself. So take AP for example. AP probably corrected the most out of all of them. So AP Perpetual, so let's say this watch, same movement, but in black ceramic with a skeletonized dial. The retail price when it first came out was $130,000
$135,000, let's say. At the peak of the market, I would say end of 2022, beginning 2023, the watch was $800,000. And today it's around 280, 270.
God.
That is
So imagine if you
insane.
bought that at 800. Imagine if you bought it at 600 even.
I mean,
do
we're
you know
seeing
any
people.
people?
Oh
that
yeah,
way?
loads.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, we see the same thing with cars as well. I mean, let's say if someone's picked up a piece of Spider when they were just the hottest things on the market and people were spending up to 700, 800,000 pounds.
Were they?
Yeah, when it was the hottest thing on the market, they will go up to that sort of money.
Yeah.
We've now got one sat right over there for 440,000 pounds. And there are going to be people who paid that sort of money. But then on the flip side, you can make just as much money. I mean, you got F40s, which you're able to pick up for 700, 800,000 pounds, just as low as close as 2 or 3 years ago. And now they're trading for the best part of £2 million.
That's just nuts.
So I think it's
Yeah, there's
so
some.
many
I guess
synergies.
there's some cars that aren't very sensitive to market conditions, and they'll stand the test of time. But I'm guessing the same is for watches, right? So Pateks,
yeah.
but Pateks did go up. Massively.
No, they had a correction also.
Yeah.
I think Patek are a lot more careful with how they allocate and the control they have on their dealers and so on. But the same thing happened with Patek. It happened with all the brands. There's no brand that didn't feel that correction.
Really?
Yeah.
And now is it on its way up?
I think it's stabilized.
It's stabilized.
I think for it to go up again, I don't know. I think it's too soon. I think it's like cyclical, maybe 6-8 years, something
You
like
don't
this.
think that this new bull run in crypto will push it up? The same
But
way?
who knows, bro? When COVID came, I was like, oh my God, the market's fucked.
Yeah.
No one's going to buy anything. You know, like all the brands are going to be suffering. And what happened? It just went completely the other way.
Went
So
nuts.
don't ask me what I know. Whatever I say, do the opposite of it probably, because that's what's going to work.
It's an interesting one, actually. So I know you don't want to put your name against it, but let's say someone's got a budget of 100 grand.
Yeah.
And let's say someone were to give that to you. What would you invest that in, watches-wise?
Maybe a couple of simple vintage Rolexes that they will hold their money, or maybe go up 10% a year, 15% a year, good condition, box papers, complete set. Maybe like a nice FP Journe, like a Chronometre Bleu, Tantalum. Again, it's if you can have the allocation, you know, this is the problem. It's replaced with a 5811, which is essentially the same watch, 1 millimeter bigger in a white gold case. Production cost of that white gold case and bracelet versus the stainless steel case and bracelet. The movement's the same, dial is the same. Probably not more than $5,000 to $7,000 increase in production, but it goes from a retail price of 30 something thousand to 65, I think. Is the new retail price, more than double.
Crazy.
Because these brands feel like they're leaving too much money on the table.
They saw the resale market,
Yeah.
and it's exactly the same with
With the
cars.
cars, yeah.
They're seeing, 1 second, how are these guys selling it for 150 grand over,
Well,
and
are we
we're not
selling it
making
too
any
cheap?
of that, right?
Yeah.
And well, you know, the big example in the handbag world is Chanel. They just
Yeah, it's like 10 grand now for
a normal 2.55 classic flat bag.
Yeah.
It is nuts.
Yeah.
How can a bag that 6 years ago was £3,500 list price now be nearly 10? It's something like 9 something or whatever. But that's just unbelievable, right? That's the way
welcome
of the
to
world.
capitalism.
Yeah, I know. And now let's see what's been happening at GVE last week.
Yo, get the speaker box loud, hitting that stuff till you hearing that sound.
Morning guys, it's Monday morning. We're starting the week off with a big project. So behind me, we have this Bugatti Chiron, and we're going to do a number of things to this. So the first thing is the wheels are off. They're going for a refurb and they're getting a new color. So stay tuned to see what color we're going on that. Number 2, the front splitter has been damaged, obviously because it's such a low car when it's on the floor. The splitter has cracks and damage underneath. So we're going to be repairing that. And the good thing about this is this splitter is actually blue carbon. So we're going to color match and put color into the lacquer after it's been repaired. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so after we got some wrap work, we got some PPF work, we're going to have some detailing work, then we're going to have the video guys out. So every single department's going to be involved in this in one way or another. Stay tuned, the video is going to be epic. I'll see you soon. Now, because this is such a high performance vehicle and the brakes are so massive, they generate so much heat, you need extra cooling. So what these are, they are fins. And when the car is going through 200 miles an hour, it guides the cool air straight into the slots in the disc, which come out of the holes on the other side, which then cools it down.
The Bugatti Chiron behind me is all done now. A bit of backstory on the gentleman that owns the car. He called us up to get the brand new Cullinan done. So he ordered some wheels from RDB, which is based in LA. Got it shipped over here. We fitted it on. We got some colors that he was interested in. So we wrapped it in a kind of Nardo grey finish. He then took it to Portugal, which is where he resides, and a few other places. There was a few issues with the wrap itself, so we actually flew our head wrapper Vadim out to Portugal to get it sorted and got him on a plane the next day. So it just showed the customer the level of detail we would go to make him happy. So when he was back in the country in the UK to get a few bits fixed, he decided to rewrap the whole entire Cullinan on the top half to matte black, and that's when the Chiron started to, come about. So the customer and I had a few discussions about what we should do with the car. It initially started with just a bonnet and a few other bits to be done, but as the discussion went on, we kind of tailored to his requests. So we kind of done a mock-up for him to show him what the matte black would look against the blue. The wheels, what it would look like in the blue with matte black. So that gave him a visual representation of what the car would look like. And with a few tweaks here and there, we decided on the final product, which was obviously the matte black. The C, which is around both sides, to be done in a matte black, along with the bits at the back as well. So again, these were, it took a while for the customer to kind of decide on what he wanted to do, but with our guys in our design department, we were able to mock it up just so you could have a visual look at what it would look like. Okay, so when the customer decided he did want to get the Chiron done, me and my manager went out to where the car resides, which is in Mayfair, to overlook the car, see what work it needed, had a full list of what needed to be done, and then presented the quote to the customer. And what we found was the PPF had been damaged on the splitter and side skirt, so we're going to get them done, we're going to get them replaced. As for the wrap, that was all going to be removed anyway. There was damage on the wheels, hence why the customer decided, instead of refurbing two, just go for a complete color change, just to make the car look different. And his words were, make the car look brand new. I want it to feel brand new. So I think what we've done to the car, I think it's exceeded his expectations. So now that he's happy with the car, I won't reveal too much, but there's a few others that he might want to do, so stay tuned.
So yeah, you guys saw that Bugatti is amazing. The Chiron.
So
I mean, alongside that, Anish, you probably know about this as well, but didn't Jacob-Co release a special watch to go with that car?
Yeah, they have a partnership with Bugatti, so they made a watch called the Bugatti Supersport, which is a cool chronograph. But they made a really cool watch, which is called the Bugatti Chiron Tourbillon, which is like a vertical tourbillon in a case which looks like an engine, and it has a button that you push where the engine animates like it has like 16 pistons or something like this.
So cool.
And they all animate up and down on demand, and they make it either in titanium or rose gold or in like a full sapphire case. Sapphire case one is like, I don't know, $1.5 million, something like this. Like really, really cool piece of like micro engineering.
Is that something that has appreciated crazy? Because I'm guessing you could only get one if you got the car. Is that right?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know how the allocation for it works.
Oh, okay, fine.
But I know that there's not many produced. I didn't see many like trading or selling secondhand. I'm not sure what the market price is for it, but I mean, from an artistic mechanical point of view, it's super
Pretty special.
Yeah.
But you've got quite a few friends with Rolls Royces, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I have a friend. I won't say his name, where he's from, but he owns. I think he's the biggest Rolls Royce collector in the world.
No way.
I'm quite confidently say he owns a Swaptail, owns one of the boat tails. Boat tail, they made 3, owns one of them. He owns, I think it's called the Amethyst, which is the purple coach build. There was a red coach build called something else, which had, the Amethyst had a Vacheron Constantin clock in the dashboard. The red one, I forgot the name of what it was, but it had an AP.
Wow.
Like an AP Concepts dashboard clock, which actually you could take out and you could put it into a special strap instrument where you could put the watch on your wrist and then you could take it out and put it back in the dashboard clock. So
I know you can't mention names, but is this guy a very famous rapper?
No.
Okay. One of the first boat tails that were released.
No, but there's 3 boat
Jay-Z.
tails, and I believe
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So and how many boat tails were made?
3, I think, in
Oh my
total.
god.
Yeah, so he owns one. My friend owns one, and I did see another one in Saudi a week ago, but I don't know if that was my friend's one or if they imported it in from where he was.
There's talks. I don't know if it's sure, but maybe Cristiano might have a third one.
It's a very cool car.
It sounds like there's a few. There might be one fake.
Yeah, with like a picnic hamper in the back, like instead of that whole like dining kit or whatever they've got.
So you've met some of the most wealthiest guys in the world, right? Give us a story about some of the craziest experiences that you've had.
I mean, experience-wise, yeah, a lot. We've done a lot of. I'm lucky enough to have done a lot. I will tell you a story of something I was told by someone very wealthy. I was invited to a country by the head of state of that country, and also has relatives, and the head of state's brother, and so on and so on. Were also like very affluent and famous for spending money at a certain period in time. I'm trying to be as vague as I can.
Yeah.
And I said, look, okay, during this period where you're spending this much money, tell me something that you did that you bought that was just mad. And he's like, regularly I used to have dinner parties for events for like 200-300 people. One time we gave goodie bags. One time we gave we put Mercedes key in each goodie bag, and then everyone got a car. Another time we got a Vertu phone for everyone and had their initials on it with the crest of our country, and it was in the goodie bag, but the dinner got delayed. And then 3 years later, one of the staff opened a cupboard and there were like 300 gift bags with these Vertu phones in it. Obviously all out of date by that time, so I think they just chucked them away. God. He said one time, I'm really like a enthusiast for photography, and I was out in the jungle and I was trying to take a particular picture and I couldn't take it. I couldn't take the right lens. I didn't have the right lens to take it. So I got Canon to make a lens for me. And it cost me back then about £200,000. And I had it flown on a Concorde to my country. And I took the picture and I never used that lens ever again.
That's crazy.
Oh my God. It didn't have anything to do with Saddam Hussein's family, did it?
No, it wasn't. Even a Casio, I've got a bunch of Casios and I wear those and I like them still.
You've got a bunch of Casios.
I have this nostalgia thing from when I was a kid, right? You had the Casios with the calculators and the TV remote and stuff like this. So there's kind of a nostalgia feel to those things that I like.
There is.
Yeah, it brings me back to my childhood. And
how much does the AP watch go for?
This one?
Sorry, not the AP, the RM. The RM.
The RM, I think it's about $250,000 today.
Okay.
somewhere around there.
Okay, cool. And then your top special occasion watch?
Mine that I own, or what I would get.
No, if there's anything out there.
Rolex made a Daytona, I think 8 pieces for the Sultan of Oman in the 70s. It has a special reference number called a 6270. And it's a yellow gold Daytona with a pave diamond set, like full diamond set dial, and a baguette diamond set bezel. On any given day, my choice would change, but it's very much up there with, like, if I could only wear one watch for the rest of my life.
Oh, wow.
It would be that, because it's so nice, and it's even though it's diamond set, it's not like hideous, like gaudy. It's like, it's beautiful. And on the back, it has 8 of them have the stamp of the crest of Oman, the Khanjar with the swords. And for me, because of the history and the provenance and how much of a revered collector the Sultan of Oman was before he passed, and all of the story and the history of his collection, and especially of this watch, that, for me, that's like the ultimate vintage Rolex. And it's like $2 or $3 million, I think, today.
Wow. Another very interesting one, actually, is with a lot of our viewers on TikTok, they like to see entry level. So entry level supercars, how did they get in?
Yeah.
So let's say you've got yourself a budget of 10,000. What would your ultimate entry level watch be?
There's a lot you can buy for 10,000, you know. It's like Tudor make really good pieces, the Black Bay 58. You've got really cool independent brands that have pieces that are entering into that market. You know, you've got pieces like the Space One, it's like complicated independent watch brand, and it's like, I think, $3,000 or $4,000. Konstantin Shaikin is another really good independent watchmaker. He makes really cool pieces, and they sell for like way over the retail price, but, you know, somewhere around 10,000, I think. There's a lot. £10,000 is a lot of money, you know, to be honest. Like, for a normal person, £50 is enough for a watch, which is actually sensible. You don't need to spend that much more. 10,000, there's a lot of watches you can buy in that price point to give you a lot of value, I think.
Okay, so we've got a series of quickfire questions.
Okay.
Yep. Favorite watch brand and why?
Oh, jeez.
Uh-oh.
I don't really have a favorite. You know, it's like, it's on any given day. And I'm quite eclectic, right, in the way I am. It's not very quickfire, sorry. But like the way I dress, you know, I could be in a suit, I could be in ripped jeans, I could be in shorts.
But this is overall that you love the watches, maybe, or, you know, you've worked with them for so long.
I'll tell you what I really like. I love a lot of brands, you know. I love Rolex, I love Patek. I've collected a lot of brands in my life. I love a lot of independent brands like MB&F. I love, you know, the ideology and the things that they stand for. I love things like what Tag Heuer are doing, because it's a really cool entry-level product, you know, for people to get into watchmaking. If I look at a brand that's really an anomaly, like it doesn't make sense how it's so successful in such a short period of time, it's Richard Mille, because it's just over 20 years old. He's a guy that came in with like super expensive products, you know, $200,000, like first watch, you know, entry, that's it. And it's so complicated, and the design is so iconic. And what he does with materials, what he does with the mechanisms, and the fun that they have, right? They launched like a year or a year and a half ago this Smiley watch. I don't know if you saw this. Okay, so it's a tourbillon, it's like white ceramic case, and it's made with the Smiley company, which is the company that has the yellow dot with the yellow circle with the smile. And this watch is like just emojis, and it's a tourbillon, and the retail price is like, I don't know, you can't even get one because it's 50 pieces. The retail price is like 1.2 million or something like that, and people are fighting to pay double the retail price to have one. Fighting to pay. And it's such a cool, such a fun watch. And they've done so much stuff like this. You know, they did the Bonbon collection, which is like around sweets, and it's all like mad colors and things like that. And they're like so in demand, and they're the ones that did an ambassadorship with a sportsman, Rafa Nadal, and said, okay, we're making a watch that you can wear while you play tennis. So it's not like you're going to wear it when you're, you know, in your suit, whatever. You're going to wear this watch while you're playing tennis because it can hold the G-force. And then
actually, that makes so much sense. And then they done it with the Sprinter as well, right?
They did it with Usain Bolt. Then they did it with Bubba Watson with like the G-force meter. So like when you're doing your golf swing, it has a meter that will tell you how much G-force you're swinging. Then they've done so many like that. The Pharrell Williams, such a cool watch. for me, like what he's done with his brand in 20 something years, to be in the position that he's in and to be as desirable as they are compared to the giants of watchmaking that they're around, who are all been around 200-300 years. You know, it's really cool.
Favorite supercar brand and why? That should be an easy
brand
question.
or model.
Brand and model.
Model, you know what I really like is the Gamera, because I feel like it's a family supercar, 4 seats, and it's just sick, but you can put your kids in it. So it's like the only one, because the rest of it is like 2 seats and no one wants to sit in it with you, or you can't squeeze everyone in, whereas that's like a proper 4-seater car, which I really like. Brand, that's a good question. I really don't know. It's tough to say.
You seem like a Lambo man.
Do you think? I don't know though. Lambos, yeah, but me, if I was gonna get a Lambo, I get a Countach. It's like such a fuck you car.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, a lot of people can have an Aventador, and it's a beautiful car. I super respect it. But a Countach is like, it's so aggressive, it's so mad. The lines, the inconvenience of that car is what makes it kind of cool. The windows like this big. You know, it's just a mad car.
You know, you can always say you can judge a person by the car they drive.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the podcast, you were saying that you used to dress very eccentric. You used to be in loud colours.
Yeah.
So in the car world, for someone to be very eccentric, the first car you think of is Lamborghini.
Yeah, maybe.
It's true.
But modern Lamborghini, no, it's too not too. Hey, listen, I completely admire and I'm envious of anyone that drives like a modern Lamborghini. It's a great car. But for me, I would go more vintage. I would go Countach, super nice 300 SL.
Nice. Gullwing or Roadster?
Roadster's nice, but Gullwing is like just iconic.
Yeah.
Gullwing is just hard to beat, right? So yeah, somewhere that kind of, I mean, it's not convenient. They're probably going to break down on me. I saw a 300 SL Gullwing in Saudi with 160 kilometers on the clock.
Wow.
That's nuts.
That's got to be worth best part of 20 more, I reckon.
I don't know, asking like mad money for it.
Okay, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I thought you said, what's the best pizza? I was going to tell you.
Fuck's sake.
Best piece.
Okay, let me try this. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think it's like trust your gut in a lot of things that you do, because you'll second guess yourself a lot of the time, and a lot of the time you talk yourself out of something. But deep down, you probably know what is good for you or what is going to work. And if you trust your gut instinct, it will steer you the right way more times than it won't.
I definitely would second that. There's many times where I've not trusted my gut and it's totally gone the wrong way. One unique talent that you have that people don't know about you?
I DJ'd since I was 18 years old. Still do it now.
And you still do it now? Where do you do it now?
I mean, I picked it back up during COVID actually, but like I have like 3,000-4,000 vinyl records. And
what sort of genre?
I did everything, you know, like I'm into music, you know. So from when I was like 13, I bought like a secondhand record player from like the market, and I was buying like vinyl. Like back then it was like reggae, ragga, hip hop, like jungle, drum and bass, loads of Michael Jackson picture discs, this that I was collecting and buying. Then it was like kind of into like this Chicago house. Then it was like UK garage. This kind of whole scene kind of took over here, and that's what I was playing a lot of. Then it was again into hip hop, and it kind of just morphs into all these different things. And now I play like house music, more like tribal, Afro, Latin house, that kind of thing.
Do you still refer to yourself as Tonic?
No.
No?
It's just my name now. But
what's your favorite way to unwind after work?
Obviously, get in bed and watch a movie and fall asleep after like 3 minutes, or.
What kind of movie?
yeah.
3 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I mean, I understand the joke now. That was good.
Most expensive watch you've ever bought?
I don't know. I don't really want to say numbers. I can say the most expensive that I worn was a $32 million Patek.
Oh,
It
wow.
auctioned for $32 million.
Bloody hell, that's crazy. What's the 3 most famous contacts in your phone book?
Kevin Hart.
That's pretty cool.
really
What's he
think-
like, Kevin Hart?
He's actually really cool. He's exactly how he is in his movies
Comedy
and
shows
on
and
stand-up.
How did you get in touch with him?
Through, he was following our Instagram, and it was like, oh, you know, like I really like what you do. And he came to London, and someone from his PR team reached out to us and was like, oh, I'd really like to meet you. So I went and met him. He was super nice, invited us to his show, and then we were backstage with him. And he's a really, you know, really
How cool is that?
knowledgeable watch collector. And there's loads of people like this, you know, like I don't really think, you know, I don't prioritize people in order of like how famous they are and stuff like that. But I'm lucky. I've met a lot of heads of states. I've had dinner with loads of famous people, like either through events that we've done because they're partners of the brands, or through them being collectors and, you know, reaching out, or one reaching out to the other, or something like this. So
It's kind of delving off somewhere else, but these guys really look up to you for your knowledge. But what is it with your knowledge? I mean, is it to show the authenticity of it, or the value things?
I think it's a balance, right? It's like, okay, maybe knowledge of the market. Like, hey, do you think this is good? Do you think, you know, I've been collecting XYZ brand. Do you think that's good? Or I'm buying this. What do you think? Or, you know, I've been offered this. What do you think?
So more from an investment.
I mean, it's a mixture, right? It's investment, but it's also credibility. It's also like, you know, what do you think about going to vintage? You know, what does my collection need? I have a lot of this. I have this. What other directions do you think it should go in? So it's like curation a little bit, but it's genuine advice, you know, because I'm not selling something to them. So it's not like I'm not telling them I'll buy this because I've got 3 in stock. And that's probably why, I guess, because there's always a thing, like if you feel like you're getting sold to, you're a bit, somewhere subconsciously you feel a bit wary about something, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's a part of the reason why.
Actually, I think there's a bit of similarities between you and Anish in that way, because you get all of your customers, whether they're buying a car from us or not, just giving you a call and saying, hey, listen, George, just give me some advice, please.
Well, that's exactly what I was asking, because it's interesting to know that when you put the sales perspective into it, then it might push some people away. So for us, it's a balance. We still have to show that we are selling these cars.
Yeah.
But as an example, we had, I mean, this is just one example of the bout of hundreds that happened. Just the other week, Reece James was asking, say, I'm looking for an investment car. I don't know, what should I go into? And it's a bit surreal in the moment, thinking, hold on a second, out of all the people out there, and you've come and you've messaged thinking you're asking for advice, that I guess that's the power of social media, how
It really is.
it portrays your knowledge out to the thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions of people.
Well, look what's happening with Bruce at the moment.
Yeah.
Supercar Bruce.
Yeah.
He's literally the main man, not just in the UK, in the world. Because I was in Dubai recently.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned GVE, they're like, oh my God, that guy who tells us how to fix our cars.
Yeah. He's amazing. I was going to say the same thing. It's exactly that. It's like, he's so good at explaining what he's doing, and there's like no caveat to it. It's like, oh, you know what? This McLaren came in and the software's not working, and they told him he's got to spend $4,000 on a new screen, and actually you just got to reboot, so you got to press this and do this, and it didn't cost anything. And it's like, wow, okay, that's great advice. Like, I trust this guy.
Yeah.
And actually, I feel like he's really like an expert in what he does. You know, so whereas like, you know, I would go and take my car to like someone in Cyprus, and there's probably nothing wrong with me. He'd be like, oh, you need the engine rebuild because the flux capacitor is not connected to the ice cream machine. Well, I don't know, like it's a different language to me, right? So he's telling me all this stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, here, you know, go fix it. So that's the exact, like while you were talking, I was thinking about that, you know, like it's such a good source of information. And not just that, like people are not looking at it because they're like, oh, I need to learn how to fix my car. But it's just like, wow, it's so interesting what this guy knows.
I think definitely something that I've seen with social media, how it's evolved over the years, is that I think people are becoming more savvy now, right? That I don't just want to look at mind-numbing content that is, you know, not giving me any value. And now more and more people are like, I need value-added content.
Yeah.
And actually you've hit that from such an early time, and now it's actually paying its dividends. But for us, the key thing has been, you know, how do we just give back? Actually, just give people information. It doesn't matter, you know. Hopefully, they'll come to us and buy from us, or get their car serviced with us, or get this X, Y, and Z done with us. But in the meantime, we'll just blow up, you know, from that perspective. you know, with our reach. But it seems like you've already done that. So well done for doing it. You know, it's an amazing success what you've done.
Thank you. It's not just me, you know. It's like I worked hard, but I think a lot of people work hard. It's not only me, but you know, you have some luck. You have that goes with you, and then you have a good team around you. You have good partners. You have people that add a lot of facets and elements where you are lacking certain things. So it's like it's all of these things that come together. You know, you couldn't do what you're doing here with your business if you were doing it on your own in the same way. Right? You have a great team in whether it's in sales, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in servicing, all of these things, and that's what makes you stronger as you go on.
Okay, so we've learned so much about watches today. It's been a great learning experience. What's next?
I think I'm going to fly home on Sunday, take a rest.
Home is in Cyprus, by the way.
In Cyprus, yeah.
Yeah.
Take a bit of rest. Weather's good. Sit in my garden, go in the pool.
And then
back
back to work.
Yeah, there's a big trade show called Watches and Wonders in April, so we have a lot to prepare.
Where's that?
Is in Geneva, but it's kind of like the time of the year where all the brands will do their main releases for the year. So that's where you discover what.
It's like Geneva Motor Show.
Yes,
kind of thing.
Exactly like that. So there's that, which is, you know, a big thing to prepare for. We have some trips in between. We have some work projects and stuff. Always, it's good. You know, it's exciting. It's fun. London's always great. It's always home, even if it's not home. So it's great to see you again. It's great to see, you know, your success story as well.
Appreciate it.
It's amazing.
Yep, we're slowly moving towards what we want to achieve, but yeah, we're getting there slowly.
Okay. Thank you. See you in Monaco.
Cool. See you in Monaco, yeah.
Getting pissed off in Monaco.
Hopefully this time I remember it. Yeah.
So this is the point that I always get wrong. I really hope you enjoyed the podcast, guys. And if you did, please like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. Cheers. Until next time.